least Mark being doubtful, again, you'll know more later, is it just does Jeff Lark step in there? Do you move some guys around or do you know what you may do there if he's going to?
Well, we've got some ideas, and I'm going to probably hold judgment until we see the full gamut of where we're at. You know, without question, Mark is an excellent player, and he's been very productive. He's taken the linebacker role well, and he's got big shoes to fill. But if he's not able to play, Robert, when I said he was doubtful, we're leaning that way. You know, we'll look at our best combination, and some of it comes into play also. You saw Saturday, many times we're shuffling guys in and out, and that's, we'll make adjustments to personnel groupings that are out there. I think Robert Priester played almost every play and then played a lot of plays. But he's a corner that comes in on nickel, so that has an impact as well. I would say if you check with me tomorrow, we're going to be able to give you a definitive answer there. We're hopeful, but not very optimistic.
With your first border war week and kind of soaking it up, what's your sense so far about how things may be different for this rivalry and just kind of the feel of what this rivalry is like, I guess, with this program?
Well, we're well versed on the long tradition of the rivalry, and I think that's great about college football. Certainly the Bronze Boot is a coveted prize, but right now the biggest thing we're trying to do is get focused on our football team. You know, we've had 2 losses, and that's not something that as a coaching staff we're accustomed to, although we're a seasoned veteran coaching staff. I think it's important for us as a football program to put one foot in front of the other and move forward. Certainly handling these injuries that I just mentioned are going to have an impact on our game plan, and I think our attitude is really going to be important. But I can tell you this, is as the week goes along, as we fine-tune our game plan, we'll do all the things within our reach to make sure we get a great game plan to hop on the bus to go down there and win the boot.
Craig, when you looked at you did have so many guys hurt and guys running in and out of there last week. Did you like what, I know we mentioned Robert Priester played a lot, and he has played this season. Tyrann Finley's out there. We saw Lark and Muhammad out there. Did you like some of the things you saw from some of those guys that had to get pressed into duty?
Well, we certainly did, and I appreciate you bringing that up. However, when you're not a seasoned veteran starters, there's not going to be everything that works perfectly. But that experience that those guys are getting is going to be invaluable. I think a guy like Robert Priester, who is a true freshman that's coming in and has had to play against the top talent in the country, whether it's Michigan State or Oregon or whomever, those game repetitions are very valuable. And he's done some good things. He's done some things he also needs to improve on. Certainly all the other guys that came in, those game experiences are important. Sometimes there's growing pains to go through them. As a coach, sometimes you stand on the sideline and you kind of grit your teeth a little bit. I would say we're pleased, but not well pleased. That's the best way I can categorize it.
Coach, before the season you talked a lot about using this elevation and grinding teams down, but obviously a lot of 3-and-outs so far on the offensive side. How do you kind of improve that and improve time possession so you can do that better?
Well, that's a great point, and it was disappointing because during the course of that game, if you looked at the possession time, it flipped over to San Jose's favor. Now, some of it had to do with how we were deploying our guys on defense. We went into the game saying, okay, we're going to play a certain number of zones and to make sure that we don't give up big plays. And I saw, we saw significant improvement from that from the Y game. However, a lot of yards, but the point reduction was significant. On the flip side, and to address your issue, a lot of it starts with some things that we need to do better up front. We did not get our running game going until very late, and so that took too long. And the other thing we need to be able to do is stay on the field on 3rd down. Too many long yardage situations while we created some. We need to do better on 1st down, whether it's throwing the ball or running the ball. So the 3rd down is more of a makeable down. And we were chasing, we were down on balls and strikes, I would say. And so that's going to be a point of emphasis this week. Pretty dubious task. Colorado State's got a very formidable front, as I mentioned. But that's the task at hand. And for us to move forward as a football team, we've got to be more productive.
Is at least what you've seen so far in the league, is CSU at least maybe one of the more complete teams you've seen in the league? I know you're only not all the way through the league, but it seems like they're the hottest team right now. Are they maybe the most complete team in the league you've seen at least to this point?
You know, it's a pretty balanced league. However, if you even just look at records and you look at how the games have turned out, they've certainly got to be one of the stronger teams within our conference. You know, we're more focused on the west, not the western portion, but the mountain portion. So it's great to get back into our portion of league play. But as you watch the crossover tape and things like that, I really see a significant difference in the Colorado State team that I saw a couple of years ago as we prepared for them to the one now. And I really think they've done a nice job putting their components together. I know that, like I said, they had to replace an awful lot of offensive linemen, but they've done a good job there. But they're strong in all three phases, and they're garnering top 25 votes for a reason.
How big is it? You know, you mentioned stopping the big play against San Jose State, and you were able to do that for the most part. But, you know, CSU has had more big passing plays than anybody in the conference. So how much of an emphasis is that, stopping the big play against them?
It's going to be a concern, and it's going to be a point of emphasis. The residual of not giving up big plays is we're creating turnovers. I mean, for 2 games in a row now, we've had a touchdown on defense, and that's hard to do. And that came about because we're stripping the ball more, we're staying on the field more. You saw in the Utah State game, I mean, it was a close game, and I thought Colorado State did a great job of, you know, coming back, and, you know, it looked like they were going to probably go into overtime, and lo and behold, you know, they were in position to win the game. Unlike us, when we were in position to win the game also. And that came about because of 2 big plays, and one in particular, a deep post route, which Grayson throws a nice ball, and they've got good receivers, and they protect well.
Craig, I know Blair Burns said after the game Saturday that there are a lot of down people in the locker room. Talking about Robert kind of thinking that he'd given up the game a little bit. How concerned are you about the emotional state of this team right now? Just where you see them right now?
Well, I'll know a whole lot more meeting with the captains later on today, and I'll meet with our team later on this afternoon, and we'll have a light practice this evening. That is a real concern, would not be maybe the best description, but as a head football coach, it's important for us to recognize that we've got to improve from what we didn't do well last week, but capitalize or emphasize the things that we have done well to keep our football program moving forward. And so attitude will come into play, Scotty, in how we coach these guys and lift them up, show them what they can do better, don't beat them down, but don't have rose-colored glasses on. And a lot of that comes in a relationship of trust where those players really know you. And to say that we're in a real mature portion of our program, it would be inaccurate. So a lot of these guys, this is not you know, it's a lot easier when you walk in that locker room after you win, and particularly when you lose close games. I think sometimes that's more of a challenge to deal with. And you have to recognize that these guys, while they may be all muscled up and big, strong guys, they're still in college. And so they're going to have some emotional roller coasters, but that's our charge as a coach. And that's why we have coach on our shirt. Coaching means facilitating and to move guys forward and show them what they can become. And so that's going to be a big, big point of emphasis for us.
Coach, as a kind of a follow-up, how are you guys as a staff are used to all the success dealing
Yeah,
with this?
You know, everybody asked me that because, you know, you just got used to winning. And that's a good thing, though. One of the advantages of experience, so is you have a foundation, a resolve that you come back to and say, okay, here are our principles. These are unwavering principles, and these things are going to guide our program forward. The worst thing that we can do is get ourselves on some type of philosophical roller coaster. Then all of a sudden you start changing schemes. You go from a 4-3 to a 3-4 to changing this style of offense to that style of offense, and that's really counterproductive. We've got a clear vision. You know, we're in the middle of some choppy water, and it's going to be important that we as coaches continue to paint a clear picture. How we feel really doesn't have anything to do with the cost of butter. What does count is how our players perceive in our vision, and that's one advantage of having a seasoned, experienced coaching staff of guys who've been together a long time, and quite frankly, that's one of the advantages of, I'm 56 years old, I've coached 30 years. That doesn't mean I'm an expert, but it hasn't been a whole heck of a lot I hadn't seen and experienced.
Is it easier to do that kind of the second time around after building North Dakota State?
Well, there's some foundational things, you know, everybody, and I appreciate whether it's ESPN or all the things around the country, they'll gravitate to that 43-2. There was a period where a couple teams we had were, while they were not eligible for playoffs, I mean, we 10-1, 10-1, we had some great football teams, and there's a 3-8 year in there. And I'll tell you what, that'll wake you up. And so, you know, there's ups and downs, and you go through that. I think it's really important as a coaching staff, and particularly from a head coaching standpoint, that you stay positive, that you don't go up and down, that you stay the course. And these young people here, these players are wanting to gravitate something to hang on to, because they have been through an awful lot of ups and downs. And so I think it's imperative that we get a bounce in our step and go out and move forward. And that's going to give us our best opportunity to beat Colorado State.